Great to be speaking on the Colour of Country Life with the CEO of Sheep Producers Australia, Bonnie Skinner. How are you, Bonnie?
Good, thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Look, we wanted to catch up with our livestock producers about, I guess, your perspective on what's happening on biosecurity. First of all, just talk us through, firstly, foot and mouth disease from a sheep producer's point of view, where the concern level lies.
Well, I guess we've always taken the threat of foot and mouth disease very seriously as an industry, and understandably, everyone's very concerned about it being as close as it is in Indonesia. That being said, it's in a lot of countries around the world, and a lot of what we do with our preparedness activities in Australia is understanding where that disease is circulating and what the risk to Australia might be and how it might get into this country. So, look, we have been concerned. We're doing a lot of work with government behind the scenes, and the government is the one who is responsible for that pre-border biosecurity work. So ever since it was announced in Indonesia earlier this year, they've been very active in going over there and understanding what needs to be done to protect Australia in terms of stopping importation of any livestock products that might be coming over that could potentially contain virus, and making changes to, I guess, incoming travellers and monitoring the risks that are there. So I suppose we are alert. We're trying to keep everybody calm and remind everyone that there are very robust systems that are in place to protect Australia from this disease.
Now, just to be clear, because here, when we're talking here on this recording, Friday the 22nd of July, there's no cases of foot and mouth disease in Australia in terms of amongst our livestock at this stage.
There are no cases, no. There has been some misreporting done on that in the last 24 hours following the detection of virus fragments in different food products. And so there is no FMD in Australia, no. This sort of monitoring of products, and these are usually shelf-stable, heat-treated products, that sort of monitoring has been going on for a number of years. Some people might remember going back a couple of years, there were announcements made around FMD and African swine fever fragments found in pork products coming in. So no, we do not have disease here, and there is not enough virus particle in those products that would cause clinical disease. However, it's a very good reminder of why swill feeding is illegal in Australia, and that this is why.
Now, if we did have an outbreak in Australia, being able to trace, I guess, where animals have been is important. The New South Wales Agriculture Minister, Dougal Saunders, took a position to the Wednesday meeting of Agriculture Ministers that we needed to bring in the electronic tracing of sheep. It's operative in other sectors. Why haven't we had this set up thus far in the sheep sector?
Well, we actually, as industry, proposed reforms to the Federal Department 2 years ago, recommending the implementation of electronic identification for all FMD-susceptible livestock, as well as a number of other reforms. So the department, the federal government, has been sitting on those reforms for a couple of years. But it's important to remember in the sheep industry, prior to Victoria implementing it in 2017, there were basically a lot of software and technological impediments that needed to be figured out to make it workable for the sheep supply chain. So particularly in sale yards where we've got throughput of tens of thousands of sheep. And what Victoria did was basically make that successful. They've shown that it could work, that sheep EID could work. We've done a lot of work to understand whether the traceability performance that we see with electronic tags is superior to the visual-based system, and the evidence tells us that it is. So a lot of work's gone into understanding, I guess, the position to support EID, and it's very pleasing to see that agreement amongst all states and territories to, I guess, commit to working to going down that pathway. But there is a lot of conversation still yet to be had on that.
So I'm just wondering, you mentioned the department had it for a little while. We've got it with cattle, though, haven't we? And it's been in place for some time?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So
yep.
why is it from a technology point of view? What makes it different with cattle as opposed to sheep?
As I said, it was primarily the throughput of sheep at fast numbers being run through races, particularly in a sale yard environment. So back when they were looking at it, but after cattle implemented a number of years ago, there was a lot of work done, probably around 2007, 8, 9, 10, to try and sort of upgrade the software and the readers that were required. And to be honest, the technology just was not there. Now, a lot of those technology providers were working on that in the background, and when Victoria announced its rollout, that gave them the opportunity to commercialise that and make that work. So there's a lot of work that's been done and should be very much applauded, particularly by the likes of Allflex and other software providers that have been doing that. We've also seen a lot of technology upgraders needing to be happening in abattoirs as well, with regards to reading software that needs to be able to track those carcasses and keep that traceability information flowing through the plant too. So proof of concept's been done now. Now we need the political agreement to go ahead across the country.
Now, just a couple of things on this one. First of all, the cost. A producer listening to this might be thinking, well, what's it going to cost me? Who ends up bearing the cost? But the beef industry's had to wear that one already?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. So the cost has always been a big part of the conversations around the move to this system. We, I guess, have been talking about, what might be possible in terms of subsidies, the same with Victoria when the system was introduced. But you do make a very good point about the cattle system. There were subsidies when cattle tags were introduced as well. So what we need to understand from producers is, what is the price of tags that they would like to be able to have it subsidised down to? Is it 50 cents, 70 cents? What's the actual number we're talking about, and how long for? Because subsidies do run out. I think, beyond the cost of the tag, though, it's recognising the value of the traceability system and the fact that these systems underpin our global market access. So the really good, strong prices that we enjoy here in Australia for our lamb in particular, they're all attributed to our market access. And we have our market access because of our traceability system. So it does have to be seen in the context of what you're getting at your farm gate and your returns, the value of that system, and what the price of the tag is.
Yeah, that was my other question. Was the Victorian government do talk frequently, as we broadcast across a number of states, about traceability and the value that spend actually brings, including for the provenance of animals as well, which is becoming more popular too.
Yes, that's right. It's a really important to make. The value of everything that we produce comes down to our capacity to export. And so this is where these systems underpin all of our global trade market access arrangements and agreements, is this system. So we need to have it as strong as we can do. And producers, I think, need to be very mindful of the value that it does generate to them on farm, which I think perhaps has in previous years been lost a little bit. We need to understand that this is why we invest in these systems. And these systems are invested in anyway at a national level through producer levies, through systems like the NLIS as well. They're very important.
Well, Bonnie, we're well and truly over time, but we're great to get into that detail. Thanks so much for joining us today on Flow.
Thanks very much for having me.